everybody, so I'm going to be doing a demo for the lemon curd in this video. I am using a different method than what the recipe originally called for. That one asked for you using a double boiler to cook your curd. It takes about 25 to 30 minutes of active stirring time over the stove. So I like to use this other method that you have to be much more careful with it, but it's much faster because we're cooking it over direct heat. So my items that I have here, fresh lemon juice, lemon zest, whole eggs, egg yolks, and sugar. So I'm going to start by combining, can you see this? Yes. So I'm going to combine my egg yolks and my whole eggs. I'm going to get that whisked together. Get those eggs completely combined. And then I'm going to add my sugar in. And we'll get this combined. Let's move that over so I don't spill it. So what we're looking for out of this curd is to have a nice firm set. Because we're going to be using it in a cake, we don't want to have something that's more sauce-like because otherwise when we're trying to put pressure on the layers of the cake and frosting it and slicing it, a softer curd would kind of smush out between the layers. So we really want to avoid that. So this curd has a high amount of whole eggs as opposed to just using egg yolks. So yes, if we had just egg yolks, it would be very, very rich. But we need the set from that protein. So I'm going to start by bringing my lemon juice and also my lemon zest to a boil. So I'm using a fairly large pot for this, so it's going to be really helpful. I'll get a lot of surface area in here, so this should cook a lot more efficiently. And I won't have to worry about a big depth of volume of trying to get that to have the heat distributed evenly, where I'm cooking too intensely on the bottom and I'm having to wait a while for that heat to distribute up to the top. So the method that I'm using here is kind of like the method we use to make pastry cream. So I am going to be tempering my egg yolks with my boiled lemon juice. That's going to gradually bring the heat up on these eggs, so I'll have a little bit more control about how they thicken. Because I'm cooking over direct heat, if I put my eggs directly into the pot, it's way too much intense heat and hitting really quickly, and I'll get scrambled eggs. So by tempering, I'm gradually bringing that temperature up so I can control how these eggs are thickening. Just making sure that's really well combined. How's this looking in here? Getting nice and steamy. So curds are typically citrus, and you could very easily substitute lime for this, or orange. You can do a combination of them, but I have also done curds raspberry and blueberry just by using purees in the place of my lemon juice. The citrus is so great though too, because you can actually incorporate the zest as well. So it gives you that extra punch of acidity. Okay, so this is up to a boil. Okay, so I'm going to gradually add this in. So I'm going to do this in about 3 to 4 increments. Stir, stir, stir. Next. Let's whisk. See, that's starting to loosen up with that warm liquid in there. And now the rest. Okay. So, and I can feel that, and this is actually a small amount of liquid for the amount of eggs that we have. So sometimes when you're tempering, you may only have to get about half the liquid in, but we are getting all of it in since it is a small amount. And most of our liquid content is actually coming from our eggs. So now I'm going to whisk this. I'm going to be whisking this vigorously the entire time that I am cooking this. So I am going to treat this like pastry cream in that I am whisking vigorously the whole time, and then I actually want to see this maybe even get a few little bubbles of boiling. But I'm really going to keep an eye on the thickness of this. That's going to be how I can tell. I'm cooking right now on about medium-high heat. That's going to be enough that I will get this back to a boil, but it's not so high that I can't control the thickening of this. Bring this a little closer. There's my face. Okay, a little bit. So the reason that we could bring this so close to boiling and not scramble the eggs is because of the amount of acid that's in here. So the acid is actually protecting those eggs. It's similar to when we make pastry cream and we have cornstarch present. So that cornstarch is protecting our eggs from scrambling. This is essentially a stovetop custard because it is a liquid that is thickened by the coagulation of egg proteins. When we are doing a stovetop custard, remember that the classic temperature range for doneness on that is going to be 175 up to 185. So at 185 is when you have maximum coagulation of the proteins. Above that, it will just scramble. A lot of times you may see recipes that are asking you to pull it off at 175, 178, maybe to account for carryover cooking that you're getting, or just the thickness that that recipe is looking for as far as the set. The eggs, of course, are cooked at 165, so we know that they are, it's not an issue of food safety. We are just looking for the, what consistency do you want on the finished product? So I'm just going to keep stirring this. I'm starting to actually see some thickening now. It's not looking quite so liquidy. So I am going to keep a very close eye on it from this point so that I can really watch and make sure that I'm getting the exact texture that I want to have. So what I'm seeing as it's starting to thicken, because I'm using a whisk to stir, initially when it was a really high liquid content and it hadn't started to coagulate yet, there was a foam layer on top from the liquid. Now as that's thickening, that's starting to disappear. Do be careful of burning on this. It has a really high sugar content, so you can actually get little burned pieces at the bottom. So you really want to watch out for that, and make sure and just keep an eye on your heat. Okay. Okay, so I'm starting to see a few bubbles in there. So this is actually boiling. I'm going to let this boil for about 30 more seconds just to make sure I am at full thickness. Really whisking vigorously. Okay. So I'm going to get this out of the pot and strain it immediately, because I will be getting carryover cooking while this is sitting in the pot, so you can see how beautiful and thick that is. Just grab a spatula. The rest of that in. So we're straining this to catch the zest that we had in here. It's done its part to infuse some really nice, strong lemon flavor. And then also, the straining will help if you had any little bits of cooked egg. That way it can strain those out too, so that we're just left with this beautiful smooth, silky custard. Catching all that zest that was left behind. Beautiful. Make sure I just wipe off my spatula so I'm not grabbing any zest, and then just run that on the outside of your strainer so that we get all of that delicious curd. Okay. So this is a nice custard. Basically what we've made right here, even though we've thickened it fully, is a sauce. So the addition of the butter is what is really going to thicken this up as it sets. So I'm just gonna stir my butter in. I don't want to be stirring wildly at this point, so I'm just gonna give it a few stirs, let the heat do the work, and then come back and stir again. Remember that this is a custard, and so we want to make sure that we are cooling this quickly. So as soon as my butter is incorporated, I'm going to get this on an ice bath. Just like pastry cream, this will form a skin on top, so you want to make sure that your plastic wrap is on the surface. Anytime that you're not actively stirring that on that ice bath, you need to have it with the plastic wrap on the surface to avoid forming that skin. Curd actually freezes really well, so it's something that anything that you don't use in your cake or tart or whatever it is that you're making, you can freeze the rest of it, and it comes back and it thaws with really no loss in texture or quality. Just get that all melted in. Alright, just those last few bits need to be stirred in. And this is ready for the ice bath. So once this is chilled, then it's going to be ready for filling in our cake.